Good afternoon, everyone. For those of you who have not actually met me in person, I'm Zoë Gowen, and I recently joined Atlanta Homes and Lifestyles as our executive editor. And today I am thrilled to introduce you via Zoom and webinar to Brandon Ingram and Mallory Mathison for our first behind the scenes May issue reveal. And it's been a joy to work with them. And in case you haven't had a chance to get your hands on the actual physical issues, we have a link in the chat. You can take a brief look at the overview of the story. And also, if you aren't familiar with how Zoom works, and we weren't either, and we're still a work in progress, please submit questions through the Zoom webinar chat, which you can find in the top right menu. And we will filter, we have a process to filter them through to Mallory and Brandon. All right, so I will let Brandon take it from here and introduce himself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Brandon Ingram. My firm, C. Brandon Ingram Design, has a passion and a love for designing classic and I guess you might say traditional houses, really all across the country. But we do like to take that kind of Southern bent that I was born and raised on and kind of sprinkle a little bit of that Southern gentility and familiarity in almost every project we do. And that's what was so special about this one that we're going to be talking about today, is that it's right in the middle of a sweet little South Georgia or Central Georgia small town. Great project and a great example of what kind of my firm and my team actually do and love to do.
And so, Mallory, can you tell us a little bit about you and your firm and your take on design?
Of course. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Mallory Mathison Glenn, and we're so excited to share this really special project with you live. I think it's a great way to get this out in a time when we're all at home, and there's nothing more than having a beautiful home to look at while you're sitting in your own home right now. So absolutely. I'm based in Atlanta, Georgia, and work on projects across the Southeast and Northeast, and I'm really a traditionalist at heart. I love color, and it was so great to work with the client in this project because she also loves color. We had so many similarities in our own personal style, which it doesn't always happen. It's actually fairly rare. So it was a wonderful experience. Everything that we would come up with and say, the client would say, yes, that's great. And everything she would say, we would have the same response. So it was a wonderful partnership in working on this beautiful home.
All right. So I think from there, we'll dive in. I will reiterate, because I know we're all new to Zoom, and you're going to have a lot of questions, and we're hoping to show you a lot more to this house than you knew existed, and really kind of dive into the stories behind all of it. So you'll have more questions, so please submit them through chat. And we're filtering those, as I said, and now we'll get started. So Brandon and Mallory, what did you think when you came upon this? Did you think you'd ever be able to get it to this?
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yes, of course.
So I first met Harriet, the homeowner, on site, I guess it was a couple of years ago now, and she insisted that I come to her current house first, the house she currently lived in, before she would take me to this one, because she knew that, and we all agreed that it was just such a diamond in the rough, a beautiful house that once was full of South or small town Georgia splendor, and it had just kind of become something that we knew the potential was there, and that we could bring out that specialness of it once again. So it had great bones. It had a great personality, even as it was. And we knew just by walking through, you walk in the front door, and we just knew that there was a potential there to just take it to the next level. And Harriet was on board with all of that. She loved the scale of it. She loved the location of it. And so it was hitting every right gear for her. And we kind of followed her lead and brought it, again, kind of gave it a new life.
Yeah, it seems like it went from 50s and tired to this amazing garden cottage with all the lattice details. And
correct. And that's a good word, Zoe. Garden cottage is actually a really good descriptor of this. You know, believe it or not, we didn't change anything on the footprint of this house. The roof line didn't change one bit. The footprint didn't change one bit. But what we did do is just embellish. You know, we took away the original 1950s iron columns up front. We corrected some of the window proportions that were a little bit small and a little bit kind of not quite so friendly. We updated the roof. We added the little eyebrow dormer with that special little detail.
Brandon, what are these interesting little roof shingles?
Oh, it's one of our favorite roofs to use.
It's one of our favorite roofs to use from GAF shingles, and it's their Sienna line, and they're actually diamond tab shingles. So it's an asphalt roof, but they come in large diamonds, which is really, we haven't seen it in generations really, but it's a really common roof material that was used back in the early 1900s, even late 1800s. But GAF brought that line back, and we've been able to utilize that on a couple of projects lately. It's got the practicality and the kind of familiarity, the ease of installation that an asphalt roof has, but it just takes that asphalt roof up just one notch.
Yeah, it's great. Mallory, did you come in for the color scheme? It seems like
yes. So one thing I wanted to say is we love seeing homes where we can really embrace this idea of quality over quantity and using every single little square inch of space to make it special. And I think that this house is a perfect example of that. We knew we wanted it to be just a light, bright feeling on the exterior. The homeowner's Harriet she has such a bright, happy personality. When you think about a color house that she would have, it definitely is a white house. So we knew we wanted to go white and just have it really crisp and fresh. And green is one of her favorite colors that we want, one of the few favorite colors. So we honed in on using this Farrow and Ball caulk green for the shutters and in the inside, actually for the butler's pantry, so it kind of ties through. Loved this color, and I think that the green and the white together, along with the black accents of the iron railing and the light fixtures outside, just make it a really classic combination that feels very fresh. Can you hear me?
Zoe, did we lose you?
Yeah, did we lose you?
All right. I'm sorry. I was accidentally.
Sorry.
My furry roommate started drinking, so I loud water and I couldn't get to her. Okay. So let me get. I still cannot believe that this is a renovation. Let's go. Okay. So, but y'all did not add any square footage.
We added no square footage whatsoever. In fact, really the only changes that we made on the inside, if you look at that before floor plan, you see that it really was a sort of dated 1950s floor plan. And, you know, one thing that was interesting, so if you could slide your page tab over maybe. There you go. Thank you. If you look in that before floor plan, there was a kitchen, a really small kind of service-oriented kitchen that was sitting right up in the front of the house. And the dining room was more in the middle, connected to the living room. And you know, having gotten to know Harriet and John and the way they like to live and the way they entertain, we knew that that kitchen really needed to be more central to the house, to the floor plan of the house. So we took that kitchen and slid it back to where the dining room and put the dining room in the front. Which all of a sudden gave it a much more lively, much more kind of personable feeling. And it did that really classic Southern thing by putting the dining room almost directly off the foyer, which I think is such a lovely thing. Dining rooms are some of my favorite rooms in houses. And I think having that one in that kind of cherished front and center spot it was a really good move. Also on the right side of the house, if you notice, there were three sort of awkwardly scaled bedrooms, a little bit choppy. There wasn't a proper master bathroom. So we sort of cleaned house on that end. John and Harry only needed 2 bedrooms on the main level because this is sort of an empty nest house. We took the central bedroom and made it their bathroom, enlarged closet spaces. And we also carved a little staircase in off the living room through some hidden doors that take them up to additional storage in the attic.
Oh, nice. So it's fixed storage, not the wonky pull down.
It's real stairs, real stairs. They were going from a much larger house and really significantly downsizing. So we really did need to accommodate their needs, not only aesthetically, but really functionally.
And how many square feet is this house?
As it is right here, it's about 2,800, 2,700 square feet.
All right. And so I think we should go inside now and see what y'all did with 2,700 square feet.
We used every little bit of it to amp up the personality and the color and the pattern. And we really started out, Harriet has amazing, beautiful things. It was so exciting to see things that she already had. We love it when a client has beautiful pieces that we can pull off of. For instance, this sweet little ballroom chair in the corner is one that she had for years. So we wanted this entry to really come in and be just a little snippet of everything else that you're going to see throughout the house. So green is a favorite color, but also aqua and coral. So we decided to hone in on the aqua and coral here, and back to that garden cottage feel. We use this beautiful Schumacher trellis wallpaper, a lovely little folly feeling light fixture to welcome everyone into the house.
All right. I just love that it starts this trellis feel all throughout. And then
right, it kind of keeps going through little snippets. So back to that garden feel. You have the trellis, you have floral, we have ferns. We just have all this floral and fauna and other elements that speak to a garden.
And it all works so well too with Brandon's amazing cabinetry details. I mean, what came first, the entry wallpaper or this?
It comes all together kind of at the same time as we're working through interior selections. So the floor plan comes first, and then we take the floor plan and work through the interior selections and the interior details together. So for instance, in this space, we knew we wanted some beautiful fretwork on the cabinetry. So we painted the cabinets and the walls, which we paneled, and the trim, all the same color. So this is a great example of a place where we knew we were going to have more detail in the cabinetry, so there wasn't going to be a different treatment on the wall. And when Brandon and I can work in tandem with planning a project from the beginning, we have the wonderful opportunity to embrace these small, thoughtful details.
Sure. A lot of times when I know Mallory's going to use a really kind of saturated, vibrant color, it'll give me the opportunity to maybe dial up the architecture to show off shadow lines and that sort of thing. That's why in this little kind of jewel box of a room, the architectural paneling became really important, and the detailing on the cabinets, and even that little hint of a mirror on the backsplash, just a little reflection, a little sparkle. And I think it's also interesting, Zoe, to know that this space that you're looking at here was originally just a simple, small little breakfast room right off the foyer. And I think it's a real nod to Harriet's personality and the way she loves to entertain that we actually put this butler's pantry, which would typically be reserved for a space between a kitchen and a dining room, but we put it right off the foyer. So you come in and there's immediately that quick glance to your left, and you kind of get the spirit of the house really early on.
And it works great it's also the bar. So
sure.
When people come in, if they're having a party, they can usher themselves right into the butler's pantry to make a drink. When you're entertaining, the flow of this space, which actually they're stacked refrigerator drawers to the left, it makes for a wonderful little entertaining hub, as well as storing all Harriet's beautiful silver and her serving pieces that in the new kitchen there wasn't going to be room for, since we downsized so much.
So smart. So it really breaks up where you can sort of house your dishes and your glasses.
Yes.
You don't have a lot of space in the kitchen. And then it leads straight through to the real party room.
Right. This is the garden in full spring bloom right here. So it was so much fun to decorate this room and to come up with the scheme. This rug is a rug that Harriet has had for a number of years. It's a beautiful needlepoint rug with flowers and ferns, and has our whole color palette for the whole house, the greens and aquas and corals and ivories. and a little bit of yellow. And so we used that rug along with one other rug that we'll talk about later. Those were two things that were really the foundation for the entire design. I remember going to Harriet's house, her previous home, with all of our fabrics, and we laid them out on top of these rugs to edit down and make sure that we were coming within the color palette. And even though this rug is covered in beautiful pattern, we didn't want to stop there. We wanted to really embrace this natural garden feel. So we did an IXL scenic paper. We did this beautiful fern frond table skirt. Even the fabric on the chair seats, which were Harriet's existing dining room chairs, have a little faux bois cut velvet in them to help just tie around that natural feel. And it ended up being a space that, you know, when you look at everything individually, it seems like a lot of pattern, but when you see it all together, I just think it looks like a beautiful garden, and it's so happy. I mean, wonderful place for long dinner parties, and get a little touch of spring any time of year.
Did you just know instinctively that mural wallpaper would work, or was there ever with the rug?
Yes. I am a firm maximalist, so I think that in this case, you know, more is more. We did go with a solid moire curtain, which helps to temper the pattern a little bit. But I love the layered patterns. It just feels like a very joyful, happy space, and that was our intent.
You know, there's another sort of behind the scenes point in this room where kind of the architecture and interiors had to really start working together. But as Mallory was working on the wallpaper, this specific wallpaper had a certain height that each panel came in. And so almost at the 11th hour, we came in and had to adjust our cornice, the crown around the top of the room, and add an extra piece to accommodate for the height of the wallpaper panels. And, you know, at the end of the day, it was sort of how do we attack this sort of situation? But it ended up being a big improvement. The scale of the cornice grew, the detailing in the millwork in that room really elevated itself as a function of accommodating those wallpaper panels. So it's the beauty of working closely, again, from architecture and interiors, is that issues like that can work themselves out, and so many times end up with results that are better than we would have started with.
Yeah. Right. So Brandon, how tall is this cornice?
I think we started out with that cornice being about 6.5 inches, which is about the right proportion for a 9-foot ceiling, which is what this house has. But we ended up adding about 2 extra inches to that cornice.
Okay.
Which, you know, I kind of took the inspiration from old houses with the old picture molding, where you'd actually hang wires, hang pictures. So we sort of went that historic route. But yeah, it just gave the cornice a little bit of extra heft, and it made the wallpaper work out, and it's a great moment.
Yeah, it turned out so beautifully, and we did a high gloss ceiling, so the paper has a little bit of a matte finish to it, and so to mix up the sheens and give luminosity in the space, we did a high gloss ceiling. It's really subtle, but you can see it in this photograph if you look closely.
Oh yeah, no, I can see it right here. And then is the chandelier, is that a family heirloom, or?
We found, Harriet and I were shopping at the very end of the project. We found all the other lighting. We knew we wanted to find something that was vintage for the dining room. And so really at the end of the project, Harriet and I met at Scott's, and we went shopping, and we found that chandelier from the big chandelier here that's here in Atlanta. We knew we wanted something that had crystals and had a little bit of an empire shape. And we also found the powder room vanity that day too. So we had a few things that we just went shopping for together and found. And I love doing that with clients because it helps them have a real hand in the decisions that are being made in the pieces that are going in their home.
Yeah, I love a field trip too.
We love a field trip, yes.
Especially, I didn't know how much I loved a field trip till current times.
Right.
So let's move on to maybe my personal favorite in your house.
Yes, this kitchen is I would say maybe one of my favorite kitchens that we've ever done. I absolutely love it. And I love how small it is, how functional it is, and how pretty it is all at the same time. So, you know, most of the time when we're looking at new builds, when we're looking at a lot of homes that Now the kitchens are really large, and we wanted to incorporate a way to get as much storage and as much functionality out of this beautiful little space as possible. And just one little tidbit of something that we did, which I love to do in kitchens, if you flip back to the other picture with the bar stools, you'll see we have little drawers that are underneath the island. So in those drawers, you can put your iPad, you can use that as a little desk. So one thing that the homeowner lost from her previous home is having a dedicated home desk, a little home office in her kitchen. So we worked to replicate that in this small space so she could have a place to keep everything from pencils, notepads. There's a little place to charge an iPad in there, so that this kitchen in a smaller, in a downsizing situation, the island could work as her home office. And we wanted to pull through the floral motif. We used this beautiful Lee Joffa chintz hollyhock, which was perfect. It has our whole color palette, and used one of my favorite colors, sea salt, on the cabinets. And then we put tile on the walls. And one little detail that's kind of fun is, it's hard to see it in these images, but the grout throughout the whole kitchen is also a very, very soft aqua. So it just really subtly ties through all of the paint colors.
Mm-hmm. So I think this is also a good example of something I tell clients all the time, that often when you're doing a renovation, you end up really sometimes designing with your arm behind your back, because you're given so many constraints and so many limitations on what you can do and what you can't do. And in this case, we were just given a small kitchen. And I think it's a good example of when you are given a certain amount of constraint, you end up creatively solving problems and creatively doing things you might not have otherwise thought of. In this kitchen, because it's so small, we really had to pull out all the stops on every detail and make every single detail count. When I was designing those, the butlers, or the kind of china closets there with the little reading on the drawers and the fretwork in the doors, with such a small space, you have to be really careful about not overdoing it, but even more dangerous than that is underdoing it. And so it was fun to be able to sprinkle that sort of detail through. And even if you see kind of, again, back to the notion of architecture and decorative interiors working together, as I was drawing that elevation on the bottom right, literally I was checking with Mallory, what are the curtains going to be in this room when you're done? How are you going to treat that window? And so part of my cabinet design was based on how I knew she was going to treat that window. So even in the drawings we presented to the client, you see Mallory's Roman shade in front of the window.
So Brandon, what if Mallory would have said that she was planning for a cafe curtain? How would you have changed these drawings?
I mean, it probably wouldn't have changed anything on the left.
I don't think it would have changed. I don't think that it would have changed very much.
Yeah, it probably would not have changed. If she had said,
if she had said something like, if we're gonna have a black, the kitchen's gonna be black cabinets, or maybe even white, that would have been different. I wanted to point out one thing that I love about this kitchen, which you can see in the elevations. One of these serves as their food pantry, and then the other cabinet, which flank the opening going into the living room, serves for all their small appliances. So the Keurig, the mixer, the toaster oven, all those things are housed neatly inside of those fretwork cabinets with electricity in there. So all they have to do is go over, open the doors, push them back, and be able to utilize all those appliances without ever having to get them out. The microwave's back there. So
this is true. Yeah, there's no evidence of wires or day-to-day life in here.
Right.
And I do recall that y'all had another field trip out of this kitchen.
Oh, we did. We ended up using a local cabinet shop it's in Zebulon, Georgia. So we went on a little romp to Zebulon and met the cabinet people, had lunch with them, went through all of the cabinet details there. So it's always great to work. I will mention the builder, Bowen Jones, who's in Griffin, Georgia. He was amazing to work with. And it's
Absolutely.
Always fun to work in different cities and meet new craftsmen and develop relationships with them that we would have not met otherwise.
Totally agree. And I think it says a lot about, never discount the small town builders and the small town craftsmen. Great houses don't just come out of Buckhead or just out of Atlanta or Montgomery or there's skilled craftsmen and skilled builders everywhere. And I think when given the right project and then when they rise to the occasion, it can be really wonderful, really, really wonderful. And everybody on this project we worked with was just that way.
Great. We'll move on to another jewel box within the jewel box.
Yes, this is one of my favorite spaces. I love this. This is Lemonac Pierre Frey wallpaper. It's a document print that was recolored, and the colorway is called Peony. I just love the soft pink, then punched out with that vibrant cranberry. And you know, anybody who knows me knows that I love chinoiserie for many different reasons, but this highlights one of the top reasons is because it's just so whimsical. All of these lovely little china figures are doing they're jumping rope, they're swinging on a swing, they're playing a violin or a mandolin or whatever. They're just doing all of these fun little kind of joie de vivre things that are so whimsical to look at when you're in the powder room. This is the vanity that Harriet and I found at Scott's. This mirror was actually in her powder room beforehand, and it worked perfectly. And then we found this fabulous little crystal chandelier here in Atlanta at the lamp shop that had apricot crystals, and it could not have been a better fit. So I just love going all out in a powder room, and when you're in there for just a few minutes, it's always fun to have something to look at that's really interesting.
Oh yeah, little men jump roping.
I know, aren't they cute?
Fun, yeah. My man.
And those fun hats. It almost, you know, it has like this very sort of like chic Seussical feel to it, which I love.
I agree. Maybe we should redo the Dr. Seuss books.
It's so really fun.
Well, let's jump through to the family room, which in here, this makes me think that the new owners must have been pretty similar to the previous owners, just a few generations later. I feel like there's like a similar spirit going on.
Yeah.
Brendan, you want to tell about, there is a family connection between the previous owners and the new owners.
Yes. So Harriet's husband, John, actually grew up in Griffin as well. And he remembers coming over to this house as a little boy and spending the night here. One of his friends lived in the same house. There's a nice family connection there, which Mallory and I both really loved.
It makes for a very sweet story that this house is continuing on. You know, it's been loved for years and years, and now it's continuing on in the hands of another family that will love it.
A little full circle moment there. You know, this room though, we're pretty sure that this particular room was added on to. You know, if you look at those original pictures on the previous slide, you know, it was very, there were some saving graces here. The brick floors, those were old St. Joe brick floors, which is one of my favorite brick floors to use. And there was an interesting, you know, amount of light back there. But for the most part, it had a Frenchy feel. It had a very kind of Frenchy Marie Antoinette feel or something with the tile ceiling and the mantle especially. And so part of our goal was just sort of open that space up. It was a great space and it served the house well in its day. But we thought it was an opportunity to open it up, breathe a little new life into it. We actually preserved that interesting bow window in the back, that curving window. Which, you know, if we had looked at this early on and somebody just shown me a floor plan, I'd have said that thing's got to go, get rid of that immediately. But the minute we walked in and really kind of got to know the house, it was interesting. I think it became a relic, a really lovable relic from the house that was always there. We did increase the amount of light and increase the number of windows on the right side of the house, the wall behind the club chairs there.
So Brandon, sorry to interrupt. Since we're a few slides past the floor plan, can you just kind of reorient us where the family room is in the layout?
Yeah, so this is in the very back left corner of the house, sort of off where the new kitchen is. So on the back, kind of reaches out back left.
Okay.
So if I'm looking out that curved window, I'm seeing the very backyard. If I'm looking out the right window behind the two club chairs, I'm seeing their new patio, kind of courtyard area.
Okay. There's so many windows in here. I just love it.
So many windows.
So this is where the homeowners watch TV at night. You don't see it in any of the photographs, but right across from these club chairs, there's a television over the mantle. So this is really where they are spending a ton of time. We wanted to make it feel light and bright, but also really, really cozy and comfortable. And at night, the shears can be drawn. There's actually so much natural light coming in this room, which is why we did the the linen shears to filter that if it gets too bright. And then at night they can pull those curtains so it feels just like a really beautiful little cocoon in there.
I love the color palette too with the floor, keeping the brick floor, and then this great green rug. I feel like I don't see many Oriental rugs that are green.
So this rug is the other rug in the story of this home that the Newtons purchased years ago, and it was in their living room in the previous home, and they loved it. So we really wanted to reuse it in this home, and it was just a little bit too big, so we had it cut down to fit perfectly. And the colors that you see in this rug, you can definitely see the green and the ivory, but there's also aqua and there's coral and a little bit of this oxblood cranberry red, which I love. And so this rug, along with the dining room rug, were both our starting points for the entire palette.
Of the house?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And I love that pomegranate colored grass cloth that we put in the back of the bookshelves to show off her beautiful English porcelains and antique books. And this this clock, the grandfather clock that you see, it was in their entry at the previous home, and so there wasn't space for it in the entry in this house, and it worked perfectly in the family room.
I love it. So Brandon, looking at your renderings, where did you hide the TV in here?
We put the TV right over the mantle. I've kind of, I fought that fight. I fought the good fight on trying to hide TVs, and I still do it when we can. But, you know, at the end of the day, I think we have to remember this is 2020. We all have TVs. We don't need to hide them every single time. And sometimes it's okay to put a fireplace or a TV over the fireplace.
I agree.
As much as we used to cringe and bellyache about it, I think it's a necessary evil.
Yeah, sometimes you just need to let things be what they are.
I use that as an opportunity to design things that might detract from the TV, though. So it's not just a big black box. There's actually beautiful millwork and cabinetry. Also in this room, to counter all the windows that are happening, we did give a little architectural interest by recessing panels with wood boards, not shiplap, but wood butted boards within the panels. Just again, to give a little weight and to make it so the TV just isn't everything in the room.
So Brandon, what's the difference between shiplap and butted boards? You seem like you have an opinion.
I do. I really dislike the word shiplap. I think it has some connotations that are not necessarily timeless. To me, butted boards, or to me, shiplap is when boards are put together and there's that gap. You hear builders call it nickel gap or dime gap or that sort of thing. And you see that black line in there.
Can shiplap go vertically or is it just horizontal?
Shiplap can go horizontally or vertically.
Okay.
But when I use what I call butted boards or planked walls, it's literally boards that are touching each other. They're butted completely together. And the intent there is that when it's painted, it's going to look pretty solid and pretty smooth. But as a house begins to settle and age, those little gaps between the boards are going to start to expand and contract. And it's just going to start to give the house a sense of history. And shiplap and butted boards are all really precedented means of treating a wall. Historically, tons of old houses had wood walls because they're easy to clean. They're functional, especially in back of house areas. But again, I like to use them to kind of give that sense of weight, that visual weight, and that sense of a house having evolved and settled. And when those gaps start appearing, some smaller, some bigger, that imperfection, I think, is really wonderful.
Yeah, no, I love it. All right. So now we get a close up. Mallory, where did you use this fabric?
That fabric is on the club chairs, and then we found this great hand blocked linen, which again has all of our color palette in it, a lot of pattern. In the other, in the dining room that we saw, there was no pattern on the curtains, so we definitely wanted to bring in a little pattern on the curtains in the keeping room and jazz it up with a great key. All
right, are y'all ready to jump to my other favorite room with the green floor?
Yes, yes. So this is a sunroom, and the previous homeowner had it as a sunroom. The only thing that really remains is the green floor, and we thought about, should we cover it up? Should we take it up? Should we? and we kind of came to the conclusion as a team that we would embrace it and make it a part of the feel for this lovely little solarium, where Harriet, the homeowner, spends so much time. There's actually across from this little wicker day bed, there's a television. So this is her little haven, her little nook. So we wanted to make it feel feminine, but also really capture that indoor-outdoor feel with the beautiful fern fabric that has all of the green, every green that we have throughout the house in it, from aqua to chartreuse to this rich kind of emerald. So it was a perfect fit.
I love it. And then I also love that you painted the ceiling, so it really feels like a Hank Blue porch.
Mhm.
Yes.
So Zoe, when we first saw that room for the first time, it really was, it's an enclosed porch. It was once a back porch that had been enclosed. But it really was lacking any interior elements that kind of made it, that helped to blur that gap between indoors and outdoors. So we carried a new cornice system in there. We carried new millwork casings that would make it feel a little more interior, but we then put back a new wood ceiling to again, a little nod back to what was once a porch.
So Brandon, would this ceiling be, would you qualify this as shiplap, or is this?
This is more of a tongue and groove ceiling. There's actually a V groove in that ceiling, which is a little more appropriate for porch ceilings, I think. So that's not just butted boards or shiplap. That's actually a V groove.
Okay. And then Mallory, what is back here? Is this some of the homeowners?
That's a lovely little curio shelf that I love. This little shelf that the homeowner Harriet had before in a sitting room, and it has all of her herons collection on it, and it was just really special to her, and so it fit perfectly.
Oh my gosh, I want to go to a tea party at Harriet's house.
I know, it'd be the perfect place for one.
Post-COVID. Okay, so let's go to the hub of the home, which I think that it would help the readers, again, if we all were able to reiterate the placement of the living room in this house, that they can really.
This is that room that's literally right in the middle of the house. When you come into the foyer, this is the very room in front of you.
So
and the French doors that you
no
see,
windows.
yeah, the French doors you see on either side of the fireplace once would have led onto a porch, but what's back there now is that sunroom that we just saw. And so because we knew that also guided us and informed us to make more light and create more opportunities for light to come through that sunroom and get into this living room. We did keep that original mantle. So the mantle you see in the new picture is that exact same mantle, just cleaned up a little bit. And this is a room, because it was such an interior space, a really, like you said, Zoe, the hub of the house, we added a little more architecture, kind of dressed up the cornice a little bit, more recessed paneling, just to give some weight and to give some importance to this room.
Were these transoms from the original house? Were there transoms into that dining room?
The transoms were not there, but we added those really as a device to, again, these are 9-foot ceilings throughout the house, but lifting some of these key cased openings kind of helped to enhance the ceiling height or the impression of ceiling height. There's an image somewhere in there, so it might be the one before this, or maybe it's the next one, that shows someone standing in that opening, and you get a real, there it is. You get a real, it's the exact same ceiling height, exact same size opening, but just the feeling of lifting that cased opening and incorporating that transom just gives a whole different feel to the vertical proportion of the room.
I agree. So roughly how large is this living room? I'm fascinated with the layout and how you designed around all these openings.
Mallory, what is it? Maybe 16 by 20, something like that?
It's about, I think it's 22. I think it's 22 feet long and about 16 feet wide. So what we wanted to do in this space, which is, it's very rectangular, is create a few little seating areas that can work together independently, and then could also work if there are 20 people in the room. So we have a space. I want to talk about this fabric, this chinoiserie, a printed chintz fabric. That this is a fabric that Harriet had in her previous home, and we just loved it. She loved it. It was one of the things that, like the rugs, we use as a foundation. And we wanted to be able to display her beautiful collection of rose medallion. we really changed some things around, which is fun to do when you're working with a client who has such beautiful things from the get-go. For instance, the lamp that you see on the demi-lune table in the corner, those were a pair of vases that the homeowners got on a trip to Japan. And so we were able to take those and turn them into lamps, and they worked perfectly here in a totally different way than they did in the previous home. So this is an area, then you'll see the area that's in front of the fireplace, which there's an abstract painting by Joe Adams, who's an artist from Macon, Georgia. And then we have the area with her secretary. And what's really fun to see on the wall with the secretary is that to the left, so when you look at the chairs, to the left and the right, those look like panels, but they're actually doors where you have a storage closet there. And then on the left-hand side, that's the door to the stair that goes up to the finished attic.
Oh, so the stairs are totally hidden. They're fixed.
Completely hidden. And if the angle was a little bit wider, you'd see it's art hung on both of the doors, but they really feel like panels, but they are doors, touch latch.
Mm-hmm.
So cool. Are those called a jib door also?
It is called a jib door.
Okay. I love factoids. So we can all leave the webinar and talk about it.
Yes.
That's right. Hashtag jib door.
And it's just a fun, it's kind of a conversation point. People don't know what it is. It's fun to do something that's a little bit unexpected, but also has such a historic precedent.
Oh yeah, I would hide in the secret room all the time.
I know.
So Mallory, what are these sconces, and how tall are they?
Those sconces are about 3 feet tall, or maybe 30 inches tall, and they were in Harriet's home before, and they're just so beautiful. Like I said, she had such beautiful things. It was just an absolute joy. I mean, these chairs, for instance, we put new fabric on the seats, but she had such beautiful things to work with. So
okay, quickly.
It makes it easy. Little tassels, little.
Are people allowed to sit on this stool?
Of course, yes.
Okay.
We don't do anything that people are not allowed to sit on.
Really? Okay.
Dogs, kids, whoever.
Okay. I claim that for our tea party. Okay, and then quickly about the rose medallion. Mallory, I know that our readers love collections, and everyone, and I do too myself. Do you know anything about rose medallion?
So Rose Famille Rose Medallion is it's so highly collectible. We love to take collections that clients have, and for instance, some pieces that she had, they were in different places in her previous home, and we felt like in order to really maximize the collection, we're going to put it all together and create that grouping that's over the sofa. It's also a really fun thing to do. It's a little bit different, really beautiful thing to do that's different than, so you can see we have a mirror there, we have art on other walls, we have those giltwood sconces, so it's a completely other three-dimensional, really an art installation as well as displaying a collection. So it worked in a number of different ways. And one thing that we were drawn to is the beauty of the colors that are in that rose medallion. You see a lot of collections of traditional blue and white porcelain, but the rose medallion has the coral, it has the emerald, it has aqua, it has just these beautiful, rich jewel tone colors that you don't see, you don't see as often.
Brandon, do you and Mallory ever argue about colors? Are there colors that the two of you do not like?
I don't really like gray. I don't really like.
Yeah, I definitely am not. I'm not a big fan of gray. But to me, gray is just sort of an absence of color. I mean, I think it can also be really beautiful. You'll see when we get into another bedroom that we did use some gray and kind of a lilac version.
Yeah.
I would say that gray is probably our least go-to color.
I mean, I like neutrals as well as the next guy, but I think that working with Mallory makes me design in a different way, because I know that the vibrancy of the palette that she loves. I'm sort of like a chameleon. If I'm working with another designer, then I might design a more subtle way. But with Mallory, it's always color. It's kind of her trademark, and I can always rise to that occasion with her, and I really enjoy that. My house personally is very colorful as well, so I do like bright and vibrant colors.
Yeah, no, the colors are so happy.
That's what we want, is we want them to be happy.
Yeah.
Our goal is to create a happy home.
Which is especially important right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the master bedroom before. What is going on with this bed? I kind of want to keep it.
I know, I love that really traditional canopy bed. It's actually, it was, I don't even think it was a true full size. It's a very old bed, so it was really small. And we ended up, coming in with a king size bed that was needed. But I know that was a sweet canopy bed.
So we change anything in the room, Zoe, in terms of footprint or window location. It's all exactly as it was.
Oh, really? It fit, a king size fit between those windows?
It already fit, sure did. And we did kind of amp up the millwork, the cornice at least, and we added a quiet little chair rail, which I love to put chair rails in bedrooms. I think it's a little interesting proportion device in a bedroom. It's like putting a belt on a room.
Mm-hmm.
But that's really where I kind of left the stage in terms of architecture, and because I knew Mallory wanted to do this really special wallpaper pattern, her curtain fabric, her decorative interiors really took center stage here.
And we're all back to the garden idea, replicating in a different way this beautiful trellis, and then we have this absolutely exquisite printed linen that has florals in a really soft aqua and very soft kind of muted mint green color palette. So we were able to pull the mint green from the fabric for the trim, and we used it, as you can see, on these beautiful French chairs that the clients had. We had them recovered. And even in the cane headboard, we wanted to kind of continue on with that sort of light, airy, open feel. I love doing these little shorty valances because it gives just such a pretty little, just kind of like a punctuation on the curtain, and it was something special to do in the bedroom. We also have these light filtering sheer shades that can be drawn if it gets too bright. So it's a great way to kind of have your curtains look beautiful, but also function in a number of different ways.
So Mallory, does this shorty valance work a little bit like the transom trick in the living room to make the
yes, it does. It does. And I mean, I love lots of different types of valances, but I tend to go to a little shorty valance if possible, where you can get the feel of it, but it doesn't overpower the space. It does. It helps sort of, work as almost a soft architectural feature.
Great. And then where was this vermicelli?
It's just a pillow. It's a pillow that's on the bed, like kind of a long lumbar pillow on the bed. I love that Hollingsworth green. You can kind of see that is that soft mint color, which is not exactly the color that is printed on the grass cloth. It's a little bit more green, but that was intentional to tie in with what's happening in the fabric.
In the bathroom?
In the fabric.
Oh, yes. Let's head to the bathroom. How'd you connect these two spaces?
Oh, we love the bathrooms. Brandon, do you want to talk a little bit about the window?
Yeah, so there was not a window in this space when we started. So we kind of used that window, the new window, as an element or a way to add a little interest, kind of carry that trellis detail that we've sprinkled throughout the rest of the house. It's a real pretty pattern that actually repeats itself in the garden gate in the back. And it's just a really nice focal point. It's actually on the axis with the rest of the bathroom that kind of leads back toward the water closet and the shower. And a pretty centerpiece as the cabinetry kind of arranges itself around the window.
And these, if you'll see the louvered doors in the reflection, those are actually linen cabinets, which I love that feeling of the louvered door. It just makes it feel so fresh and just gives it sort of a southern feel. It doesn't feel coastal, but it feels really southern. So I love that element. We used the same paint color here on the cabinets as we did in the kitchen, the sea salt. So it helps create a sense of consistency throughout the house, which is something that I'm always aiming to do in interiors when working on them, is in very subtle ways create these strains of consistency and flow. So as you're walking through the house, you get just a feeling of calm and a feeling of cohesiveness without actually being able to put your finger on what it is exactly. So I think that kind of reusing colors in thoughtful ways, very subtly, helps the overall home, even with a lot of color, to still feel calm.
I agree with that. Also, did you sneak in another one of these genius little drawers from the
That's our little makeup drawer. We want to get a little drawer anywhere that you can pop one in.
That seems like the best size. Then I'm going to be able to see everything immediately when I open that.
Right. Just like you have pens and pencils, if so a very shallow little drawer, which some people think, it might not be very helpful in a bathroom and in a place where you're going to be using a desk, where you have pencils, notepads, anything like that. There's really a lot that you can put in there.
Oh yeah, I bet all those. I can you can see your makeup brushes immediately. I'm always grasping for mine. Okay, let's move on to the empty nesters guest bedroom. And
yes,
how do you design a bedroom around?
This was such a fun room to do, and just as we were saying, we don't use gray very much. You will see there's a little bit of kind of like lilac tinted platinum gray in this room. So this room is for the homeowner's daughter, who is in her 20s. She's incredibly fashionable. She's a stylist in Atlanta, and we worked with her because we wanted the space, and the homeowners really wanted a space that spoke of their daughter's style and really felt like a haven for her when she was coming home. So we met with her, went through fabrics, and this is a color palette that she really loved. And so we worked with it to give it a little bit more transitional than the other spaces in the house, but it really, really works beautifully. So we have this lovely soft lilac and a little bit of gray and ivory palette. And what's fun, you can't see too well in the picture, but the carpet is a lilac and ivory leopard print.
Oh,
which is fun little snappy element.
That is fun. Brandon, did you change anything architecturally in these rooms? Is this where you?
We changed some window sizes in here. We sort of obviously did new millwork in these rooms, but proportionally, it's the exact same room that was always there.
Okay. And so did the house go from 3 bedrooms to 2 bedrooms?
Technically, but the way we designed the upper level kind of storage room, it could be a bedroom as well.
Okay. And it was like pre-plumbed for a bathroom. So if they ever wanted to put a bathroom up there, or down the road, if someone purchased the home and wanted to put a bathroom up there, it's ready for that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
There is a little sitting area and then kind of a day bed on the 3rd floor. But they really needed, at this point in their life, having a great bathroom and closet took precedent over the 3rd bedroom.
Right.
Oh yeah, and I don't think they're missing that other bedroom now. That we're locked in our house. Well, all right. Well, I'm going to open it up to questions if we have any, or if we just want to keep talking, or if there's anything else that y'all want me to revisit in the PDF.
I would just say I think this is a really good example of what can happen when you get a client who trusts the process, understands the process, and really trusts the people that they've hired. Mallory and I both got to know Harriet on really more, not just professional levels. She's a lovely person, also a fellow Elvis fan, which I love. And in fact, one of my Christmas presents from her happened to be this little picture from her personal collection.
TCB.
TCB. Yeah, any of my clients that are listening, my birthday is May 16th, so Elvis stuff is welcome. But Harriet just really became a friend. She just really kind of became somebody that Mallory and I both loved to communicate with, to see in our office. And it's a perfect example. This project is a perfect example of what can happen when a client is so open and so trusting and willing to just take the ride with us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we just all, I think, together made a really great team, and it was so much fun to work with a client who loves color, and like Brandon said, just went for it. Didn't say, oh, let's do this and this, but let's just paint the walls in the dining room. I don't feel confident to go forward. Having that trust really lends itself to a special end product.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I have talked about this home before, and I think that it is one of the best compliments that I could ever receive, is Harriet, the homeowner, has said that when her friends have come over and they walk in the front door, they say, Harriet, this house looks just like you. So that people who know her really well walk in and immediately can see her personality and her, not only her personal style, but just her lifestyle coming through in the way the home is decorated, that it really speaks to the homeowners enough for their friends to say, this house looks just like you, is something that, it's the reason we do what we do, to create these beautiful, one-of-a-kind homes for people that just totally reflect them.
That's right.
No, I think it's great. It's one of my favorite. I love a smaller home.
You do, and you don't see that many. You don't see that many of them, and quite honestly, they're not. Dozens of people who want to live in a 2-bedroom house, but the opportunity was something that was really unique, and it was fun to roll with it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Cottages.
I'm eyeing the chat while we're talking, and I'm seeing lots of people asking for photos of the backyard area, which we don't have photos, but do y'all want to walk them through a little or describe it so they can realize?
Yeah.
The floor plan, Zoe. One of those.
There is a beautiful, which, people don't have these that much anymore, but it worked perfectly. I wish I had one. We did a beautiful carport.
That's right.
Which is, something you don't hear of that often. Everybody wants a garage, but this home lent itself perfectly to a really charming carport, and with storage off the back of it.
Which we kind of call it we called it a parking pavilion, which sounds a whole lot
pavilion,
better.
right? That's better than a carport. Sorry. The parking pavilion.
It gave Harriet a place. Her husband has a pickup truck that she doesn't really like to see, so it gave us a place to shield that pickup truck, and it's kind of tucked over on the back left corner of the property, but right there off the sunroom and off the keeping room, the after drawing shows this brick patio. We ended up developing that into a really pretty bluestone and brick patio that's sort of a few little boxwoods, kind of a boxwood border, and it just opens immediately onto the lawn. And that's really what we wanted to do, is just make that connection. It's not full of frou-frou plants and gardens. It's just a really kind of genteel, again, connection from a house to a patio to a lawn. And we let that be it. And there's a pretty garden gate right on the axis, and that's where we kind of left it.
That is perfect. And then quickly, while we're talking about that too, was there a landscape architect involved?
There
was a local landscape architect involved who helped with. If you looked at the before pictures, there were just large.
Take another look at the floor.
Yeah, lots of clouds in the front, and so we worked with him to edit it all down, and
so we got some, as you see, there was this
look up his name,
arbitrary kind of sidewalk that went from a straight driveway. And so part of our really early concept was to get a more intentional approach from the lawn to the front door, and so that was part of our design of making a circular driveway and incorporating that low brick wall and the steps that go up. It's also a good point to talk about, Zoe, that even though the house is painted brick, you don't always have to also paint landscape brick. In this case, we mixed the new wall that you see on the left side, that was painted to match the house, but right in front where it really feels more landscapey, we actually picked a beautiful Cherokee brick and let it stay unpainted. Not to mention, if you paint brick treads, it becomes really problematic. And so we really, like I said, allowed some of those non-painted bricks to mix and mingle with the painted bricks. And it gives that extra layer of depth and interest that I think is really important.
Well, so how did you decide to paint the side wall white, but not the lower wall? I mean,
Well,
kind
one of the
That's
driving
new.
those the steps, the sidewall is just a wall, and I think visually that's the wall that you see when you look out. And we wanted to really feel more housey, less gardeny, more housey. It does have some pretty shape to it. It's got some pretty details on it. But the front wall, I think we kind of drew the line and said, okay, well, this is definitely a wall that belongs to the landscape and not to the house.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, those treads, the risers that are built in and incorporated in that wall sort of dictated that it wanted to be a non-painted wall.
I agree with that. And then the carport that you mentioned is back around here.
It's background.
Right. So to the left, you have a little. To the left, you have a carport that is the same color as the house. It's the same roof. It really does feel more like an outbuilding or a little a pavilion. And then to the right, you have a little parking pad, in front, kind of flanking the circular driveway that is for the vintage blue pickup truck. So it can be on the other side of the house over here.
Mm-hmm. I kind of want to see the pickup truck for myself, but we can talk about that later.
Yeah, I think that it's probably like a 19. I would say like a 1960. I mean, it's a relic.
Okay, that's the kind of pickup I'm actually visualizing for here.
Yes, it's baby blue.
Okay, I like that. That fits. Okay, so are there any other questions, or is there anything else we've covered that we need to cover? I think this has been a great deep dive.
I know it's been really, it's been great to talk through it and relive the process of the design again. Once we turn these homes over to their owners, it's nice to kind of go back and really dig into the way it all came to be.
I love it. All right. Well, okay. Well, thank you for coming. So I'm trying to read. We do have a link to the full digital issue, but we will not be sharing the PDF after this. So hopefully we'll get to see y'all all again soon. And you can.
But how long? Somebody said, how long did the project take? Brandon, how long? Probably from the first time that you had a meeting with Harriet to installation was what, about 2 years?
16, 18 months, something like that.
Yeah, so under 2 years.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Were they prepared for it to take 2 years? Like, did y'all initially know that the project would take 2 years, or?
They were prepared, but they were perfect in every way. And if it had taken 2 years and 2 months, they'd have been fine with it. If it had taken,
right.
We
always tell our clients the biggest gift that you can give to yourself throughout the process of whether it's building a home or renovation is the gift of patience and the gift of time. And I often find that projects go so much more quickly when clients are a little bit more relaxed about the time frame than trying to push things and get things done too quickly. And it causes kind of some undue pressure when they are a little bit more relaxed. It tends to go just all the more smoothly. And one thing that we do a lot is try and make as many of the selections up front as possible, so we're not holding up the builder. So we're trying to do everything we can on our end to make thoughtful choices in the beginning, so nobody's waiting for us on the end. So yeah, it was about 18 months, but it seems like it went by like that.
And
I wish we could start it all over again.
Me too. Let's do another one.
Y'all should call the builder. What was his name? We need to give him a credit on this. I don't think
Bowen Jones was his name. Bowen is in Griffin, Georgia, and he's one of the finest builders I've ever worked with.
He was fantastic. Such a pleasure. He was wonderful.
Okay. Well, all right. Well, then let's wrap it up, and thank you all. And Mallory, will you put a quote up about your patience? We all need that right now.
Right. Yeah, I'll think of a good quote for the
All right,
patient.
I'm gonna go channel. I'm gonna go set myself up for patience with COVID.
Thank you so much for
Zoe, thank
inviting
you.
us to be a
Elizabeth,
part of
for all-
this. We loved
yeah.
it. It was a lot of fun.
Oh my
And
gosh.
hope maybe we're inspiring some people to downsize and think quality over quantity.
I hope
That's
so.
right.
I hope
Right.
they'll show us all their aqua and green rooms because that's what I want to go paint everything.
Yes.
Yes, for sure.
All right. Well, thank you all.
Thank you guys very much. Thank you, Zoe.
Bye.
Thank you,
No,
everybody.
thanks everybody for coming. It was wonderful. I'm gonna